On the morning of January 11th, something happened in the far reaches of our solar system. A subtle event that went unnoticed by most, yet would send ripples through the scientific community. It was early, quiet, and seemingly insignificant. But in the cold, empty darkness of space, something unusual had occurred, sparking the curiosity of astronomers worldwide. Out beyond the familiar orbits of the planets, where the distant gas giant Jupiter looms, something responded to the interstellar object known as Through-Eye Atlas. The object, a rare visitor from another star system, had been tracked for months as it passed through the solar system. The scientific community had been closely monitoring its trajectory, trying to understand more about its origins. Was it a comet, an asteroid, or something else entirely? The object's strange characteristics had raised more questions than answers. But what was truly fascinating was that, on this particular morning, an unexpected event caught the attention of scientists. Something had responded to Through-Eye Atlas. But what was it, and why now? At first, the signal was faint, hardly noticeable among the usual cosmic noise, but its pattern immediately stood out. Astronomers tracking Through-Eye Atlas had grown accustomed to the predictable ways in which objects like comets and asteroids behaved. However, Through-Eye Atlas seemed different. Its trajectory, while steady, did not match typical interstellar objects. It wasn't behaving like a simple rock drifting through space. And now, this faint signal from the distant reaches of our solar system only added to the mystery. It was almost as if someone, or something, had noticed the arrival of Through-Eye Atlas, responding to it in a way that no one had expected. The signal was coming from Jupiter's vicinity. Jupiter, a massive planet, a gas giant with a magnetic field strong enough to distort space itself, was often a subject of fascination for astronomers. For years, scientists had studied the planet's magnetic storms, radiation belts, and its many moons, hoping to unlock secrets of the universe. Jupiter's powerful magnetosphere had long been known to produce peculiar signals. The planet's immense gravitational pull could capture and hold space debris in its orbit, influencing the orbits of nearby objects. But this time, the signal seemed to be coming from Jupiter's own magnetic field, and it wasn't just another run-of-the-mill phenomenon. It was different. The scientific community had no immediate answers. There was no way to explain why, after months of tracking Through-Eye Atlas as it passed through the solar system, this new development occurred only now. Why had this signal appeared so suddenly, and what could it mean? Was it a coincidence, or was it something more? Over the following hours, the team of astronomers began to piece together the clues. The signal didn't fit any known pattern of radiation or electromagnetic emissions that had been observed from Jupiter before. It wasn't a flare from the planet's volcanic moon, Io. It wasn't the usual hum of charged particles caught in Jupiter's magnetosphere. The signal came in sharp, pulsating bursts, irregular in both frequency and intensity. The scientists had no choice but to speculate. Could it be an environmental anomaly? Or was it something far more intriguing? A response to Through-Eye Atlas, a response to the object itself. As the hours passed, the excitement among the research teams grew. They carefully examined the data, comparing it with previous observations. What they found was something unexpected. Every time Through-Eye Atlas passed through a specific region near Jupiter, the signal would fluctuate. It wasn't just a one-time event. The pulses were repeating, almost as though something was watching Through-Eye Atlas, something that knew it was there, that it had arrived. The implications of this discovery were vast, but the question remained, what could be causing it? Some speculated that Jupiter's immense magnetic field might have caused a gravitational shift, interacting with Through-Eye Atlas in some way. Others wondered if this was some sort of cosmic communication, an ancient message from an unknown source, triggered by the passing of Through-Eye Atlas through the solar system. But as the data was analysed and hypotheses grew, one thing became clear. This was no ordinary space event. Something had just responded to Through-Eye Atlas at Jupiter, and the story was only just beginning. As the days unfolded, the team of astronomers worked tirelessly to decode the mystery of the signal that had emerged from the vicinity of Jupiter. It wasn't just a random blip on their radar. The more they analysed, the more they realised that this was something profoundly different. The initial signal, faint but noticeable, had intensified over time. Its pattern, once erratic and difficult to interpret, began to show signs of order. Something, some force, was responding to 3i Atlas as it passed through our solar system, and it was not the type of response anyone had anticipated. Jupiter, a planet well known for its intense magnetic field, had long been a subject of intrigue for astronomers. The planet's magnetosphere is massive, so vast that it stretches out well beyond the orbit of its moons, encompassing a space far larger than one might expect from such a giant of the solar system. Its magnetic storms, the auroras at its poles, and the radio emissions from its interaction with its moons had been thoroughly studied. Yet nothing in all the data prepared scientists for this moment. The signals they were now receiving from Jupiter had a distinct quality. They weren't just random emissions from the planet itself. These were something else. These signals were echoing, repeating, and building upon themselves, as if they were engaging in a conversation with 3i Atlas. The astronomers turned to their most advanced instruments, hoping to get a clearer picture. The frequency of the signal seemed to increase in regular intervals, pulsing at a rhythm that was unlike anything they had seen before. At first, they had thought it was simply the natural interaction between 3i Atlas and Jupiter's magnetic field. But the more they studied it, the more it seemed as if there was some form of intelligent design behind the way the signal moved, a pattern that suggested it wasn't a random occurrence. It was as if someone, or something, was intentionally responding to the presence of 3i Atlas. But who or what could it be? For years, astronomers had speculated that Jupiter might be a more significant player in the solar system than we had fully realized. It is the largest planet in the solar system, with a gravitational influence that reaches far beyond its visible boundaries. Could the response to 3i Atlas be the result of some hidden force within the planet? Perhaps it wasn't just Jupiter's magnetic field at work. Could there be something lurking within the depths of the gas giant, something that humanity had never suspected? Another possibility quickly gained traction. Could 3i Atlas itself be somehow responding to Jupiter? What if the interstellar object, upon entering the solar system, had triggered a reaction, a kind of cosmic awakening from Jupiter's own systems? This idea was nothing short of groundbreaking, and yet it seemed more and more likely. If 3i Atlas had passed through a region that was sensitive enough to register such a reaction, it could explain why the signal only emerged after the object had been in proximity to the gas giant for a while. The exact nature of the interaction, however, remained a mystery. As the signal continued to pulse and echo, another strange detail emerged. The signal was not just confined to one direction. It spread outward, in a way that suggested it wasn't being emitted from a single source. It was as though the response from Jupiter, whatever it was, had enveloped 3i Atlas, wrapping it in a blanket of energy that seemed to originate from all around the object. In an attempt to understand what was happening, the research team turned to their simulations. The data they had collected didn't align with any known celestial phenomena. The interaction between 3i Atlas and Jupiter was unlike anything they had encountered before. Was it a gravitational anomaly, a new form of electromagnetic wave, or could it be something more? Some scientists began to entertain the idea that this might not be just a cosmic oddity. What if 3i Atlas wasn't simply an interstellar traveller, but something more, a beacon, a signal, an ancient message from another star system waiting to be discovered? The notion of an ancient communication sent from across the stars sent a chill through the team. Could this be the breakthrough they had all been waiting for? The beginning of something much bigger than they had ever imagined? As the signal echoed and pulsed, the answers seemed to slip further away always, just beyond their reach. The more they tried to understand, the more questions arose. What was responding to 3i Atlas? Why now? And what, if anything, did it mean for the future of space exploration? The team's excitement grew, but so did their uncertainty. They had just begun to scratch the surface of a mystery that seemed to stretch out into the vastness of space, beyond their comprehension. And yet, in the midst of all this uncertainty, there was one thing that was clear. 3i Atlas was not just another interstellar object. It had become part of something much larger, a puzzle whose pieces were scattered across the stars, waiting to be put together. The deeper the astronomers delved into the mystery of 3i Atlas and its strange interaction with Jupiter, the more they found themselves unravelling a web of questions without easy answers. The signal that had initially caught their attention had now grown more complex. What had seemed like an isolated anomaly was revealing itself as something far more significant. The data was pouring in, and with every new observation the mystery seemed to expand further, becoming an enigma that seemed to reach beyond their understanding. In the past few days, the scientists had become obsessed with one central question. Where did this signal originate? It was clear that the signal was linked to 3i Atlas, but its exact source was elusive. They had ruled out simple natural phenomena, solar wind, cosmic radiation, or even interference from Jupiter's own magnetosphere. None of these explanations seemed to fit. The pattern of the signal didn't align with any of the known sources of radio emissions from the planet. This was something new. As the signal pulsed in increasingly intricate patterns, the researchers turned to their most advanced tools, hoping for a breakthrough. They began using deep space radio telescopes to analyze the frequency and wavelength of the signals in greater detail. What they discovered was both unexpected and unsettling. The signal wasn't just being emitted from a specific location in space, nor was it confined to the vicinity of Jupiter. It appeared to be emanating from a larger region surrounding 3 Atlas, as though something had wrapped the object in an invisible web of energy, stretching out from it and interacting with Jupiter in ways they couldn't fully explain. The idea that the signal might not be coming from Jupiter, but from something interacting with 3i Atlas itself began to take hold. It was as if the object had become a focal point, a kind of cosmic anchor that was drawing energy from the vastness of space and directing it towards Jupiter. This new hypothesis was a radical departure from traditional theories about interstellar objects. If it were true, it would imply that 3 Atlas was not just a random traveller from another star system. It could be something much more intricate, something designed perhaps to interact with certain cosmic forces. The team spent countless hours refining their models, running simulations to test their hypothesis. Could it be that 3i Atlas was not a simple comet or asteroid but a kind of vessel, a remnant of a far-off civilization intentionally sent to traverse the stars and make contact with something here in the solar system? The idea sounded preposterous at first, but the more the team examined the data, the more it began to make sense. Every piece of the puzzle seemed to fit together, suggesting that the object was not simply a piece of space debris but something far more significant. But this wasn't just a wild guess. The data they had collected, especially the unusual behaviour of the signal, suggested that there was an intelligence behind it. The pulses were too structured, the rhythm too precise to be random. The way the signal interacted with Jupiter's magnetosphere also suggested something beyond a natural phenomenon. The strength and direction of the pulses seemed almost deliberate, as if someone, or something, was guiding them. As the theory evolved, it seemed increasingly likely that 3i Atlas wasn't just passing through the solar system by chance. It was interacting with the solar system in ways that no one could have predicted. The magnetic and gravitational interactions between 3i Atlas and Jupiter were unlike anything seen before. It was as though the gas giant itself, with its immense power and mysterious nature, had become a part of the object's journey, a catalyst in a much larger plan. But what was the plan? Who or what had sent 3i Atlas, and why had it come to our solar system now, at this precise moment? The idea of a deliberate interaction between 3i Atlas and Jupiter was starting to gain momentum. Some researchers speculated that the object might have been deliberately drawn into the solar system by Jupiter's powerful gravitational field. Could it be that the planet's magnetic forces were acting as a kind of guide steering 3i Atlas on a specific path? And if so, why? One theory suggested that 3i Atlas was some sort of messenger, sent from a distant star system to communicate with a civilization, perhaps even humanity. The signal it was emitting could be part of a larger interstellar network, a method of communication that transcended the limits of our understanding of physics. The response from Jupiter could have been part of this network, a way for 3i Atlas to establish contact with something, or someone, in our solar system. The more the scientists considered these possibilities, the more they realized that the implications of this discovery were vast. If 3i Atlas was indeed a messenger, it could mean that we weren't alone in the universe. The possibility that there were other civilizations out there, using interstellar objects like 3i Atlas to communicate, was a thought that both excited and terrified the research team. It was a reality-altering idea, one that would change everything we knew about space, time, and our place in the cosmos. But for now, the team could only watch as the mystery deepened. Every new piece of data raised more questions. Every signal, every pulse, only brought them closer to an answer they couldn't yet grasp. And with every passing day, the story of 3i Atlas, its origins, its purpose, and its message, became more intriguing, more elusive, and more urgent. The object was no longer just an interstellar curiosity. It had become a cosmic puzzle, one that would take years, perhaps even decades, to fully unravel. But as the pieces began to fall into place, the question remained: was 3i Atlas truly a message from the stars, or was it something more? As the team of astronomers continued to investigate the strange interactions between 3i Atlas and Jupiter, the situation began to evolve in ways that no one could have predicted. The initial signals, which had started as faint pulses, had now grown in complexity. Each new observation seemed to offer more answers, but with those answers came even more questions. What had once been an intriguing anomaly was quickly becoming an overwhelming mystery that seemed to defy the laws of physics as they understood them. The most peculiar aspect of the data was the way the signal fluctuated with Jupiter's magnetosphere. Scientists had long known that Jupiter's magnetic field was immense, affecting everything from the planet's moons to the surrounding space. But what they had never anticipated was that this force could influence an interstellar object like 3i Atlas in such a profound way. The patterns in the signal had grown erratic, pulsing with an intensity that seemed to synchronize perfectly with the fluctuations in Jupiter's magnetic field. It was almost as if the magnetic forces of Jupiter were directly interacting with the object, sending it into a kind of cosmic resonance. At first, the idea that Jupiter's magnetosphere was somehow reaching out to 3i Atlas seemed too far-fetched. After all, the object was still a considerable distance away from the planet, and its trajectory had been carefully monitored. It wasn't supposed to be influenced in such a way. But as the signals grew stronger, the data indicated that there was a much deeper connection at play. Something about 3i Atlas was triggering a response from Jupiter that went beyond simple magnetic interactions. The gravitational and electromagnetic fields around Jupiter were known to be powerful, capable of distorting the fabric of space-time itself. It was clear that something about the presence of 3i Atlas was disturbing the natural equilibrium of these fields. The signal was no longer just a passive reaction to the object's proximity. It was now actively shifting, fluctuating in a way that seemed to suggest interaction. Something had altered the path of 3i Atlas. The once predictable object was now moving in subtle ways that couldn't be explained by traditional physics. As the research team worked to analyze this anomaly, they began to realize that 3i Atlas was not simply being pulled by Jupiter's gravity. It was being affected by something far more complex. What they were witnessing was not just a gravitational interaction between two objects. It was as if the very space around 3i Atlas was being manipulated, bent, or disturbed in ways that were only now becoming apparent. The data hinted at a kind of space-time distortion. But how was this happening? Could it be that the magnetic forces of Jupiter were strong enough to create such a disturbance? Or was something else at work, something beyond the scope of current scientific understanding? Perhaps, as some scientists speculated, 3i Atlas was somehow interacting with an energy field, an ancient force hidden deep within the solar system, a force that had been triggered by the arrival of this mysterious object. As the team pored over the data, they also began to notice another strange detail. The pulses of the signal weren't just random bursts, they were following a rhythm. The frequency of the pulses was increasing at regular intervals, suggesting that the interaction was building towards something. It wasn't just a minor disturbance, it was escalating. But why? What was the signal trying to convey? There was a growing sense of urgency among the team. The implications of what they were observing were becoming clearer with each passing day. If 3i Atlas wasn't simply an interstellar traveller, but was instead interacting with some deeper cosmic force, then what could this mean for our understanding of the universe? What did this disturbance signify? As the gravitational pull of Jupiter continued to influence the object, the research team began to formulate a new hypothesis. Perhaps 3i Atlas wasn't just a passive object being pulled into the solar system. What if it had been deliberately directed here? What if its presence in the solar system was part of a larger cosmic plan, one that involved the manipulation of gravitational forces, electromagnetic fields, and even the fabric of space-time itself? This idea, while still speculative, was beginning to gain traction among some members of the team. But even as the theories began to shift and evolve, the signal continued to pulse, its rhythm growing louder and more insistent. And with each new signal, the questions mounted. Was this just a natural interaction between 3i Atlas and the forces of Jupiter, or was something else at play? Was there a deeper, hidden force, one that could alter the course of space itself, that was responding to 3i Atlas? The team's excitement grew, but so did their sense of unease. With each discovery, they realized that they were standing on the edge of a breakthrough that could redefine humanity's understanding of the universe. Yet, even as they inched closer to the truth, the mystery of 3i Atlas remained as elusive as ever. And so, they watched as the signals continued to pulse, the disturbance in space-time growing more profound with each passing moment. What had once been a quiet, unexplained event had now become a cosmic mystery, one that would challenge everything they thought they knew about space, time, and the very nature of the universe itself.